But a veteran UMNO politician, Mr. Abdullah Ahmad, feels that the loss of several states to the opposition could not be attributed to the growing strength of Anwar, but rather the perpetual weakness of former Prime Minister Mr. Abdullah Badawi.
UMNO's worst enemy is also UMNO. You see, Dollah was inept. I'm being very generous. I could have seen worse thing. He didn't do his job properly. And Anwar moved in. Anwar is charismatic, very good. Of course, he did the damage. That's why we lost 4 states.
But the battle for Putrajaya did not end after the election. After returning to Parliament in August 2008 as MP for Pematang Pau, Anwar had relied on defections from the ruling coalition to realize his plan of toppling the government within weeks. But he missed several deadlines he himself set for the transfer of power and struggled to hold his alliance together. The failure to carry out his pledge undermined his credibility and created doubts in the minds of his supporters.
I think it's fair to say that as far as Anwar was concerned, he was under the impression at that point in time that he was able to pull it off. Obviously, at the end of the day, he failed, but at that point in time, he was under the impression that he could.
Anwar's failure to topple the ruling Barisan Nasional has proven to be a temporary setback for him and the opposition. But Anwar remains a political force to be reckoned with in contemporary Malaysian politics. And just months after securing impressive gains in the 2008 general election, the opposition leader was again charged with sodomy. His former aide, Saiful Bakari Azlan, had alleged that Anwar had repeatedly sexually assaulted him. It was deja vu of sorts for Anwar, who had to defend his innocence for the second time.
Malaysians have always been cynical about their politics. So this makes them, I'm sure, much more cynical. But this is happening after 2008 and not before. And I think that makes the greatest significance. Because after 2008, the idea of an alternative government became very real.
The last 12th Malaysia general election of March 2008 has changed the political landscape of Malaysia. For the first time in the country's 50-year history, the ruling Barisan Nasional lost its 2/3 majority in the parliament. It was also defeated in several states by the opposition alliance known as the Pakatan Rakyat or PKR. The opposition alliance of Keadilan, DAP and PAS, which now controls the states of Kelantan, Penang, Kedah and Selangor, remains hungry for power. It's now in a much better shape to retain its hard-fought electoral gains against concerted efforts by the ruling BN to wrest back control of the states.
Penang is very much DAP territory, and it will be an uphill task for the BN in Penang, because UMNO will have to rely on Gerakan, MCA, and indications are that they haven't been able to make as much headway as Najib had hoped in Penang. Selangor, of course, is a major, very symbolic state, which certainly UMNO will want to respect, or BN will want to respect from the opposition. But there again, it will be very difficult because the opposition state government in Selangor has invested very heavily in the state, and they've managed to manage some of the differences that surfaced since 2008.
This is not the same opposition as the one that went campaigning in 2008. This is another opposition. It's tasted power.
And with Anwar's recent acquittal in a highly charged trial, it has now reinvigorated the opposition to mount a serious challenge to the governing coalition at the next general election. The task facing Prime Minister Najib, who's seeking his own personal mandate from the electorate, will therefore be nothing short of monumental.
Anwar's great strength, I think, aside from being able to bridge the different parties, is that he's an amazing speaker. He can move a crowd. And we have seen it in the last general elections, how he could move the Malays. You could see how the Malays actually swung over to his side very late in the day.
The 3.5-year trial has served as a major distraction for Anwar as he prepares the opposition for the next general election. But now, with the trial out of the way, he's free to lead the opposition charge. But Barisan Nasional's strength in stopping the opposition's rapid rise cannot be underestimated.
It's a different game altogether, but of course we mustn't underestimate Najib's power. Although he has not been able to win back much ground after 3 years in power, the Barisan Nasional is still holding its ground, especially UMNO.
Barisan Nasional, or BN, won only 140 seats in the 2008 elections compared to 198 in the 2004 polls. Key members of the ruling coalition, MIC and Gerakan, were almost routed, winning only 3 and 2 seats respectively, while MCA won a face-saving 15 seats compared to 31 previously. 79 seats went to UMNO, but these were still much lower than the 109 it won in the 2004 election. With the bulk of the Malay support gradually gravitating towards UMNO under the leadership of Prime Minister Najib Razak, the party is confident of victory at the next election, due to be called by 2013.
I think UMNO will win. The question now is how big the majority will be. And Najib has to learn to live without a 2/3 majority. And besides, it makes him a better Prime Minister and leader with a just comfortable majority. It depends when he calls the election and depends on the economic position. It shouldn't be difficult to beat Badawi's performance. He was inept. And as I said, Najib is not daft, he's not stupid. He should do better.
We faced Anwar in 2008, and although we suffered losses in 5 states and lost our 2/3 majority, we still won at the federal level with a sizable, simple majority. So we're not concerned who we are up against. It can be Anwar, it can be somebody else. As far as we're concerned, what is important is not who we are up against, but what we are proposing to the people of Malaysia, to the voters of Malaysia, and that's the transformation that's taking place today. Reforms in the economy, reforms in the political system to make the Malaysian democracy more open, more robust.
As a means to shore up his support base and counter the threat posed by the Anwar-led opposition alliance, Najib is gradually introducing political and economic reforms, but risks a backlash from the more conservative elements within the party in the Malay-dominated government if he moves too aggressively.
I think he has to push his reforms forward. He has to think up more reforms, and he has to convince the populace that he is a reformist Prime Minister. And most importantly, he has to show that he can keep the right wing within his own party and coalition in check. He has not been able to do that so far, and that has been hurting him a lot. The fact that the right wing has been able to dictate policy and to dictate policy matters, to dictate the mass media reports, that has hurt him a lot, I think. That has undermined his reputation as a reformist.
Anwar Ibrahim has defied all the odds after suffering.
What happened with Najib? Najib no longer will have the baggage of being seen as going after his enemy using underhanded tactics. Rather, now he can be judged on his performance in office and his own coalition and how it's governing.